Hi people, Murinure from Work here again. In this segment, in this video, I'll be discussing the proper attitude to apply to everything in life in general. So that includes the occult. And like the header suggests, or as the header suggests, that simply stands for, or that simply means in a nutshell to not expect anything. Don't expect anything and you'll be just fine. As the header of this video states, of course, expect nothing and you'll be okay. That might sound oversimplified, but it's not. The problem that the majority of people in the world have is the fact that they get their hopes up and they set high expectations for themselves. The problem with that in any situation where you have high expectations or any expectations whatsoever is, and I understand of course that this is easier said than done, and I'm not saying that that you're not supposed to have any expectations on any matter or on any level whatsoever, but I'm saying that when it comes to major decisions in life or decisions that you consider major or things that really mean something to you, at the very least try to not have any expectations or set your expectations as low as possible. The problem with people is, I myself have experienced it over the course of my life. The problem with people is that if you set your expectations ridiculously high, you get your hopes up ridiculously high, it's going to hurt indescribably bad, more or less, when you get disappointed, when you don't get any expectations or when your expectations aren't fulfilled in any way whatsoever. So usually when people are disappointed, it's not about the situation itself, it's about the expectations that they had in relation to the situation. Simple example is a guy walks in on his wife cheating on him with another man in bed at home. And of course he starts going nuts, etc., etc. He loses his mind, and in a fit of rage, he either does something, he either hurts both of them seriously, or worst case scenario, just kills them outright before killing himself. That's pretty much the worst case scenario imaginable. But this might sound like an extreme example, but it's an example nevertheless. What was the problem in this whole scenario? The problem isn't the situation itself. The problem isn't the situation, him walking in on his wife, cheating on him with another man in bed, blah, blah, blah. No. The problem is the expectations that he had. He expected his wife to be ridiculously loyal to him under every imaginable circumstance. And the fact that she broke that she literally disappointed him so immensely by breaking that vow, that expectation, in such a manner, just caused him to react the way he did. People react differently when they're disappointed. Some people react in a sad way, other people react with anger, other people react with excessive anger, rage, other people react with indifference, other people react differently, you name it, it just goes on. But my point is, the problem wasn't the situation, the problem was his expectations in relation to the situation, and that's my point. Whereas, this is another example, okay? The same situation, the exact same situation, but this time, him and his wife are in an open relationship. He comes home, he finds her with another man in bed, and things are different. He just excuses himself. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you had someone over." He even goes so far as to ask whether he can join, whether they feel something for a threesome, or if he should just leave them alone. See, the exact same situation, literally the exact same situation, but what was different? What caused an entirely different outcome, an outcome that is pretty much the absolute opposite of the aforementioned outcome. Expectations that were attached or linked to the situation itself. This is the case in general in life. If you're going to attach hope to every major life decision that doesn't work out, then you're going to keep getting disappointed and you're going to keep falling flat with your face. And major disappointment time after time, for example, even one major disappointment, depending on the severity of the situation or the severity of your expectations, better said, can easily cause you to go into a depression or worse, or just leave you with a really bad taste in your mouth. And if you don't have to go through something like that, then why go through it? So my advice to anyone out there is in relation to major life decisions or making major life decisions is always be skeptical and not excessively skeptical or unreasonably skeptical. Always be skeptical in a healthy way, but just try to not attach any expectations. Try to keep a blank mind and not attach any expectations to the major decisions that you make. If things go your way, then great. But that way, if you don't have any expectations, if things turn out to not work out in your favor, if things don't work out, then it's not gonna hurt as bad. Okay, it's not gonna hurt at all. Just always assume that no is the answer and that yes is a possibility. You can always hear yes when asking someone something. I mean, you can always hear yes as a bonus when asking someone something, but automatically assume that the answer is going to be no. That way you can't be disappointed. I've experienced this in my life, like I said earlier, more than a couple of times, and the lesson that I learned from it is exactly that which I'm passing on to you right now. Just don't expect anything and you'll be fine. Just keep a blank mind. I don't mean that in a negative way. Don't think that everything you try to accomplish or everything that you try to undertake will end up in disaster. That's not what I mean. I mean, just approach everything with a mentality along the lines of, if it works out, then great. If it doesn't work out, then I'm fine too. I'm good either way. I'll automatically just assume slightly in the back of my head subconsciously that things might not work out. There's a realistic possibility. If things work out, then great. If they don't work out, it was a realistic possibility, but I'm good. Always adopt the mentality of, or as much as possible, adopt the mentality of accepting the worst case scenario as a realistic possibility. Example, you go on a trip, what's the worst thing that can happen? That the worst thing that can happen potentially is that the trip simply does not suit you and that it turns out to be a bust and that you didn't have any fun whatsoever. Accept that in the back of your head. You don't have to say it out loud, but accept that, let the thought at least cross your mind briefly, subconsciously. And if you go on vacation and it turns out that the vacation is great, hey, all the better. But if it by any chance, happenstance or chance does not work out, then that's fine. Simply cut your losses and move on. It's that simple. And see, that way you prevent getting hurt. But imagine you getting your hopes up, you're going to go on vacation and you really have a lot of expectations. You're going to go here, you're going to go there, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and it turns out all of a sudden that you mistaking at the airport, you mistakenly on arrival, you mistakenly get seen as, or the customs mistakenly confuses you with some drug dealer or some high-end criminal, and you end up being interrogated for at least 2 and placed in a holding cell, or just you end up being detained and or interrogated for at least a couple of days, for 24 to 48 hours. See what I mean? If you have high hopes, then that's immediately going to put you in a bad mood, to the point where you might not even be able to enjoy the rest of your vacation. Whereas if you went in with a neutral mind, just keeping in mind that there's a realistic possibility that something might go wrong, then that way you're just going to shrug it off and move on. You're still going to enjoy, or try to enjoy, what still can be enjoyed of what remains of your vacation. And it's going to, despite whatever setbacks you had, it's still going to, at the end of all of that, in most cases, you're still going to be able to say, you know what, I still managed to enjoy myself. The trip wasn't great, or it wasn't without its drawbacks, but it was still good in the end. The pros outweigh the cons. That's what your reaction, generally speaking, will be. And that's my point. In the occult, for example, for me, from day one, after experiencing what I experienced, I never made the mistake again. I think I've already said this in the past. I think in a live stream or somewhere else in a video, but I've never done a separate video on this individual matter. That's hence this video after all. That's why I'm recording this video now. I remember when I first started out as a beginner, as a magician, as an occultist, I literally put my entire life's hope on the line of a successful evocation. This is back when when I still tried to evoke. Long story short, it didn't turn out, and my heart literally dropped. I really had to bring up and muster up all of my determination to not fall into a clinical depression and to literally just not honestly want to kill myself. That's what it came down to, because the mistake I made is that I told myself, okay, now I've mastered everything, now I'm going to summon a spirit successfully. I automatically assumed that success was just going to come my way, boom. And all of my life's problems are going to be solved now. This is it for me. And boom, it turned out that it didn't work for reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. This was a really long time ago. This was like decades ago for me, lifetimes ago even. And yeah, the mistake I made is that I really, really attached every imaginable hope you can imagine. I attached my entire life's hope to being able to summon spirits successfully, to evoke successfully. And as a result, boom, that happened. And it was the first time in my life that I almost fell into a deep depression. If I really didn't pull myself together, I just would have lost it completely. I just would have completely lost it, period. And ever since that time, I've always learned, okay, I learned my lesson. And in every occult project, again, occult as well as in general, we're talking about life-wise, I've always applied that worst case scenario method that I explained, that I suggest all of you out there follow. Whenever you make major life decisions, automatically just evaluate everything and just assume the worst case scenario, okay, being a realistic option. With every occult project, that's what I did, and that includes the majority of my projects, obviously, the absolute majority being successful projects. For me, it was done great. Everything works, everything is fine, absolutely great, tremendous, blah, blah, blah. But I keep my mind blank in every situation. Before I start an occult project, for me, it was always, listen, I'm going to try this. The only thing I have to ask myself, is it worth my time, energy, money, etc.? Is it worth all the effort? Is it worth my time and effort? And for me, in most cases, the answer was yes. If it wasn't yes, then I wouldn't begin with doing so. I wouldn't begin with it, period. But for me, most cases, it was yes. And there have been a couple of times that things didn't work out, but I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't anything, see? Because of expectations. I said to myself, nah, I gave it my best shot. I'm impressed with the things I experienced along the way, but bottom line is that it didn't work out. When it comes down to it, I didn't get the desired result, but that's okay. It was worth the effort, okay? Because I prepared myself mentally that, hey, failure is a realistic option from the get-go, from the beginning. Failure is a realistic option right from the start. There's a realistic chance that this might not work out. And if that's the case, then the only thing that matters is this worth my time and effort? If it is, then sure, no problem. Okay, and if it succeeds, then great. No issue whatsoever. But I wouldn't even come close to being where I am if I just automatically said to myself, I'm going to be able to do this, I'm going to be able to do that. I'm going to be able to, once this project is successful, when this project succeeds, I'll be able to do this, and so on and so forth. No, I didn't automatically assume that the project was going to be a success, and that's my point. If you're going in with that mentality, believe me, you're going to get disappointed after just 3 occult projects. Nah. Automatically, always be skeptical in a healthy way. Always assume right from the beginning that the project might realistically fail, that there's a chance that it realistically might fail. If it fails, and then just prepare yourself mentally accordingly. Listen, I'm going to do this. This doesn't, like I said, this doesn't just apply to the occult, it applies to life as a whole. I'm going to try to attempt this. If it doesn't work out, then it's fine. There's a realistic chance it might not work out and that it's a complete and utter failure. If that's the case, boom, sure, no problem. It's still worth my time. And if it's not if it does succeed, then great. Failure is automatically a given, to put it that way, but success is optional. That's simply something to keep in mind. And like I said, that's simply what I had to say. And that's it on this topic. Thanks for watching. Bye.